think that we are doomed through eternity to repeat this program, is to do it again and again and again.
What happens when a country bans meat for over 1,200 years? With documentaries like The Twin Study and What the Health promoting a primarily, if not entirely plant-based diet, it's clear that the future of humanity, for some people, is a plant-based one. But what would that type of future society actually look like? Would we be taller on average? Shorter? Would we be healthier? Some of us see health benefits transitioning off of the traditional American diet and onto a plant-based one, but some of us also see benefits from switching to an animal-based or fully carnivore diet. To get an idea of what could happen in a primarily plant-based future, we can reliably look to the past. Specifically, we can look at Japan, where meat was banned for 1,200 years. How did putting extreme restrictions on meat affect Japanese society? How did it affect the Japanese people's health? And despite fantasizing of a meatless utopia, how well was the meat ban actually observed? Historically, the peoples of ancient Japan were hunters of deer, wild boar, birds, and other animals, and ate nose to tail, just like other meat-eating cultures. But as Buddhism was introduced in the 5th century, the idea of eating meat became less and less favorable due to the belief that you or your family members could be reincarnated as an animal. Beginning in 675 AD, Emperor Tenmu placed a ban on eating cows, horses, dogs, monkeys, and chickens. Pork was later added to the list of forbidden meat.
They are not for eating.
For the next 1,200 years, the people of Japan would rely on a diet completely void of animal products altogether. Just kidding. That's a lie. That didn't actually happen. The Japanese diet still contained fish and other seafood, which included dolphins and whales, but for the most part, the diet consisted of rice and vegetables. But as you could probably guess, the meat ban wasn't as adhered to as you'd think. The makers of the recent Netflix documentaries would be shocked to hear that despite the ban on meat, a lot of people still wanted to eat it. Of the minority that still found it socially acceptable to indulge in meat were none other than emperors, shoguns, and aristocrats. They enjoyed going on hunts and eating the animals that they harvested. The shogun would send cranes that were caught by his hawks to the emperor to enjoy. There are even accounts of one shogun receiving beef pickled in sake from the Hikone clan, which was delivered marked as medicine. We'll talk more about this later. Another example has to do with milk. During the meat ban, drinking a cow's milk was considered the same thing as drinking its blood. Despite this, one emperor would periodically have dairy cows delivered to the palace, milked, and then returned to their farm after. And if you're wondering why they did this, milk would have spoiled if you ever tried to deliver it long distances before refrigeration was invented. And as if the upper crust's hunger for meat weren't telling enough, the initial orders to ban meat weren't well observed by the public at first, and the laws needed to constantly be reinforced until finally the average Joe or Jill found the thought of eating meat unclean. But to get to this point, pretty strict rules needed to be set. For example, it got to the point where if a person ate meat in the Heian period, they needed to fast for 3 days before they could enter a Buddhist temple. Then it got progressively worse. During the Kamakura period, people needed to fast for 100 days after eating meat. Anyone who ate with someone that ate meat needed to fast for 21 days. And anyone who ate with someone who ate with someone that ate meat needed to fast for 7 days. After these rules were initiated, eating meat became taboo for the most part, at least among the working class citizens. Until 1872, when the Meiji Emperor celebrated the new year by eating meat, which was met with strong opposition, when a month and a half later, 10 monks reportedly stormed the palace in an assassination attempt, under the belief that by eating meat, the emperor was destroying the soul of the Japanese people. The thing about this is that Japan was also in the process of opening up to the rest of the world, ending its period of isolation. The Japanese began engaging in international trade, meeting foreigners, and doing business with them, and it was at this point that some pretty undeniable differences were observed. Undeniable differences that we should take into account, especially for advocates of adopting a primarily plant-based diet for humanity in the future. During the Kofun period, right before the introduction of Buddhism and subsequent ban on meat, the average height of Japanese men was 163 centimeters, or about 5'4". At the end of the Edo period, after 1,200 years of extremely restricted meat consumption, the average height for men shrank to a staggering 157 centimeters, or about 5'2". After Japan began including more meat in their diet, like pork and beef, the average height increased. For reference, today the average height of men in Japan is about 171 centimeters, or about 5'7". That's an increase of 5 inches, or almost 13 centimeters from 1872 to today. Just this year, 2024, the Asahi Shimbun said that the key factor of this reduction in height was specifically due to the meat ban, and also stated that, quote, denied access to a major source of protein, Japanese people could not grow to their physical potential. But what else happened in Japanese society during the 1200 years that meat was banned? This is, to me, the most interesting part of the story, and it's really telling in terms of what nutrients the human body needs, and also what could happen if humanity as a whole restricts meat consumption like Japan did. Remember that shogun who received shipments of beef pickled in sake that were labeled as medicine? This wasn't a label to deceive the common folk. Throughout the meat ban, people were still actively consuming meat as medicine. And it was also reserved as a special food for the elderly to maintain their health. In particular, hunted meat wasn't covered by the meat ban.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Deer, wild boar, fox, raccoon dog, wolf, bear, otter, weasel, and bird meat was harvested from hunting towns in mountainous regions of Japan and sold in the Yotsuya district of Edo, which is present-day Tokyo. This district was regarded as a hunting town where medicinal meat was sold. You're hearing this right. Meat, organs, bones, horns, and more, nose to tail, were considered medicine in Japan even during the meat ban, to the point where there are even accounts of Buddhist monks being prescribed and consuming meat when they were sick. And if you think this idea somehow constitutes the definition of woo,
It's that woo-woo!
then you'll want to click off now. If you don't and you're finding this video interesting or you learned something new, please annihilate the like button and hit subscribe.
Come on. Do it! Do it!
But meat as medicine isn't some crazy idea restricted to Japan. And believe it or not, Paul Saladino or some other health influencer didn't come up with the idea of eating nose to tail to improve your health. For millennia, traditional medicine in Asia used a wide variety of animal products to treat illnesses and ailments. From antlers to entrails, even sparrows' nests, meat and animal products have been used by themselves or combined with herbs and extracts to help sick people. But there's more to this story, much more that could foreshadow what might happen if our modern society adopts a primarily plant-based diet in the future. Despite the Japanese population severely restricting meat consumption in general, here's the real kicker. Wild animal and even cow bones are commonly found in archaeological excavations of Edo period nobles' houses. Not only that, some clans that adopted Christianity ate beef and dairy throughout the meat ban until Japan's isolationist period in the mid-1600s. So meat was, at the very least, still widely consumed among the upper class in some regions of Japan, and everyone else used meat as a medicine. You can probably see where I'm going with this, but what do you think? Does Japan's 1200-year meat ban serve as a template for what could happen today if meat is stigmatized and potentially banned? If something like a present-day meat ban happens, do you think some people in society will continue to eat it? Will there be a shady black market and speakeasies where you'll need to go to sneak a steak? Will there be lavish upper-class dinners with ribs and ribeyes? Or will modern supplementation and fortification be able to prevent nutrient deficiencies and negative health outcomes? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you learned something new and like this type of video, please like and subscribe. Thanks again. Take care.